Welcome to my presentation.
Hi, I'm Melrose M. de los Reyes.
We are now discussing the Chapter 4, titled Survey Research and Sampling. The word survey literally means to look at, or to see over or beyond, or in other words, to observe. Observation is made during the course of a survey, are not limited to those of the physical type. Major difference between survey research and other methods. Survey research used to gather contemporary data, while historical research is primarily concerned with past data. In contrast to experimental research, survey research does not enable researcher to manipulate the independent variable, provides less control of the research environment, and not considered capable of definitely establishing causal relationships. Survey research is considered to be less rigorous than experimental research. Types of survey studies. Understanding the exploratory research.
What does it mean?
An exploratory survey, often conducted as qualitative research, it can increase the researcher's familiarity with phenomenon in question, help to clarify concepts, can use to establish priorities for future research, can identify new problems, can use to gather information with practical information. Kinds of exploratory surveys. Literature or review surveys is a survey of scholarly sources that provides an overview of a particular topic. Experience surveys is a survey that gather and synthesize the experiences of specialists and/or practitioners in a particular field. Analysis of insight-stimulating examples. It is focused on complex situations and problems. This kind of situations occur when the interrelations of several individuals are important. Analytical and descriptive research. Descriptive research classifies, describes, compares, and measures data. Meanwhile, the analytical research focuses on cause and effect. For example, other type of surveys: first, cross-sectional study; 2, trend study; 3, cohort study; 4, panel study; 5, approximation of a longitudinal study; 6, parallel sample study; 7, contextual study; 8, sociometric study; 9, critical incident study. The basic purposes of descriptive surveys are to describe characteristics of the population of interest, to estimate proportion in the population, make specific predictions, test associational relationships. Basic steps of survey research, an overview, formulating objectives, selecting data collection techniques, selecting the sample, collecting the data, analyzing and interpreting the results. Survey research designs. Survey research costs.
What is sampling?
Sampling is the process of selecting small number of elements from a larger defined target group of elements. Basic terms and concepts related to sampling. Universe.
Theoretical aggregation of all units or elements that apply to a particular survey.
Population.
The total of all cases that conform to a pre-specified criterion or set of criteria.
Population stratum.
A subdivision of a population based on one or more specifications or characteristics.
Element.
An individual member of or unit of a population.
Census.
A count or survey of all the elements of a population.
Sample.
A selection of units from the total population to be studied.
Case.
An individual member of the sample.
Sample frame.
The actual list of units from which the sample, or some part of the sample, is selected.
No probability sampling. No probability samples are cases where you do not know every unique member of the population in question. Accidental sample. The researcher simply selects the casts that are at hand until the sample reached a desired, designated size. Also known as convenience sampling, where you include people who are easy to reach. Quota sample. The same as accidental sampling, except that It takes steps to ensure that the significant, diverse elements of the population are included. Snowball sample. It is an appropriate method to use when members of the population are difficult to identify and locate. Purposive sample. The researchers rely on their own judgment when choosing members of the population to participate in their surveys. Self-selected sample. A group of cast, usually people, who have essentially selected themselves for inclusion in a study. Incomplete sample. Probability sampling. A type of sampling in which all members of the population are given a chance of being selected. Simple random sampling, a method of choosing samples in which all the members of the population are given equal chance to be selected as respondents. Example: stratified random samplies, a probability sampling option where the population is broken down or separated into strata-like segments or sections. Example: cluster sampling, a method obtaining a sample by dividing the population into groups, obtaining a simple random sample of the clusters. Systematic sampling, a method of selecting every nth elements of the population. Example: 4 general criteria that can help to determine the necessary sample size. 1. The degree of precision required between the sample and the population. The less accuracy needed, the smaller the necessary sample. 2. The variability of the population influences the sample size needed to achieve a given level of accuracy. The greater the variability, the larger the sample needed. 3. The method of sampling to be used can affect the size of the appropriate sample. 4. The way in which the results are to be analyzed influences of decisions on sample size. Samples that are quite small place significant limitations on the types of statistical analysis that can be employed.
What is sampling error?
A sampling error is a statistical error that occurs when analyst does not select a sample that represents the entire population of data.
What about non-sampling error? What is it?
Non-sampling error refers to any deviation between the results of a survey and the truth, which are not caused by the random selecting of observations. Sampling in library use by Sebastian Munt. Library traditionally apply sampling procedures to study specifics of the collection and to revise their card catalogs. More recent applications focus on sampling for user surveys and on collecting data for performance indicators. In general, sampling has been used to reduce complexity by analyzing a subset of the population in question. It can be selective as regards: 1. Time, for example, reporting period. 2. Location, for example, branches or service points. 3. Objects of library use, for example, collection. 4. Subjects of library use, for example, users. The gate count data from Munster University Library are used to discuss the potential and pitfalls of 1. Weekly sampling. 2. Sampling by judgment. This figure displays the average number of gate counts per weekday was not found to be normally distributed. Visits to the library seem to follow a weekly pattern with relatively low standard deviation. As you see that the average number of visits starts decline on Tuesday, and due to the academic week, Fridays and Sundays are generally less busy. In this figure, this underlines the problem by displaying adjusted data of weekly gate count of Munster University Library for years 1998 to 2000. Weekly gate counts were then correlated with the selection of automated data shown in this table. The highest correlation values with gate counts and reference were found in user-initiated reservation and access to user accounts from PC workstations inside the library. It is likely that data how significant correlation can provide useful information for estimating totals. Thank you. The end.